Well, welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Ziegler. So how does it feel to be back at Bloomsburg?
Feels terrific.
Good,
Lots
good.
of changes at campus. We've been here a number of times in the last few years. Our son actually graduated in 2006 from here, so we've had an opportunity to visit campus a few times.
Oh, wow, that's great. So first off, what motivated you to make such an endowment to BU?
Well, my wife and I have talked for many years about the problems with the educational process and felt very strongly that it needed to be changed. And we had conversations with Dr. Tidwell and Eric Evans and talked about things that they were willing to do in the curriculum, and we matched that up with some funding to help out.
They say that leaders are born, not made. Do you agree with this statement?
I don't think that's true.
No.
I think that it's a development thing over many years, and being exposed to different opportunities throughout your life that give you the opportunity to showcase your skills and talents, and you build on that and you expand on that, and ultimately you have opportunities to show what you can do, and that's I think where leadership comes in.
Okay. So some leaders build consent and others seek consensus. Which one are you?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, there are times I believe when you need to have everybody fully involved in the decision, and there are times when you have to move on. So you try to build a consensus to the point where it's rational and reasonable. At the point where you can't get there and you think it's the right thing to do, then you make the decision and you move on.
Okay. So leaders are hired for their skills and fired for their style. What skills do you think good leaders must have, and which styles ensue success?
Well, I think that credibility is a huge thing in terms of leadership. I think that the people around you have to believe that you're competent. I think they have to believe you're consistent. I believe they have to see you as having clarity of purpose. And once they understand clearly that you have those characteristics, I think they tend to follow.
Why are some executives better equipped to get at the heart of important issues and effectively anticipate and manage challenges that arise?
I think that's born out of an experience. I'm not sure how there's been a lot of studies about how the human brain works and how you basically accumulate information, assimilate that information, and boil it down to the basic essentials. So I'm not sure how it works, but I think some folks just have the ability to look at problems and take all the experience they've had over life and say, these parts of the conversation matter, and these parts don't, and here's what's important, and here's where we have to go with.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how it works other than that.
What changes, if any, do you think is needed for academic programs in business or other areas?
Well, the whole conversation that we had with Dean Tidwell and Eric Evans revolved around changing the way the education was taught from the bottom up and teaching it top down. And what I mean by that is that I think when you come into the university and take your course load, you start at the very basics of business and build that up. But it doesn't give you an understanding of what the global purpose of business is. So what we want to do is be able to have students come into the university early on, understand the essence of a business, how the parts interact, how they operate together, and then start drilling down. So we believe if you do that, then you'll have a better understanding of what opportunities are, and you can take a path to a career that most suits your skills and interests.
How can we produce strategic, thoughtful, and brilliant leaders who will guide us into the 21st century?
Challenge them. I think you have to challenge them. You have to provide opportunities to do the kind of things we're doing these last couple of days, meeting with people that have produced in their industries, that have had some success. Listen to the stories of failure, so they know what to not do.
Yeah.
And I think when you have that exposure at an early age and you have the opportunity to be stressed a little bit in terms of having to put yourself out there, I think you'll build a better skill set.
What is the most critical leadership issue we face today?
Well, I think that is really a question that goes to the issue of whether we're talking about politics or we're talking about business. I think in the business side, one of the challenges we have is with credibility, with honor and integrity, doing the right thing at all times. I think that's been a huge issue in business, and I think that it's an area that we need to address, not only in the business world but at the academic level, so they understand that that's important. And I think that also carries politics. I think that there's consistency that's required. You make decisions, you stick with them, you make sure that you execute those decisions, and follow through.
What are the 3 most pivotal moments in your career that you either learned from and or got you where you are today?
Oh boy, you're going to have to help me with this one.
Put you right on the spot.
Right on the spot. Well, I worked for a startup company out of college, and it was a company that was undercapitalized and was in very serious financial trouble. And I took some very strong action that was not necessarily within the guidelines of the company to try to correct things. And it wound up getting one of our officers at the company fired because he wasn't doing his job, and I was given that job without any experience. So that was a big turning point for me. I think that that experience I gained from that gave me the impetus to start my own company, and that was critical. And I think that as we went through our experience in building the company, there was just a whole series and strings of situations that came up in terms of trying to get the company off the ground with limited finances that really determined how it was we were going to run the business. So we made a decision early on in our business in terms of looking for capital. It was a financing issue, that we didn't want to depend on banks or private equity companies or venture capitalists to run our business. We wanted to build our company on the internally generated operating profits, and that basically dictated how we were going to run a business in the future. So I think they were pivotal points in the history of the company.
They sound like pivotal points. All right, well, what do you think is the secret to success?
I think it's hard work, it's diligence. I think that I worked for a gentleman at one time that told me that in business you can never lose unless you stop playing the game. So as long as you keep playing and keep working at it, you have the opportunity to win, and I think that's really true. There's no time clock. So you just get to be persistent and diligent and tenacious, and you can ultimately get there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your expertise. I think you gave us a lot of helpful insight. And thank you so much for funding for the Institute of Professional Business Development here at BU.